Most people think this celebrity rent scandal is just drama, a juicy headline about the rich being ripped off. But what if I told you the same tactic is being used on regular middle-class families across the country right now, and most don't even see it coming? This isn't just news. This is a blueprint, a strategy being deployed in your city, on your street. In today's story, you'll see exactly how a single, overlooked legal loophole turned a simple $2,000 apartment into a chilling $6,500 rent nightmare. And why Zillow, yes, Zillow, has officially sounded the alarm, warning that this exact trick is quietly spreading from luxury penthouses into normal, quiet neighborhoods. We're going to dive into the mechanism of the scam itself, because by the end of this video, you won't just know the story, you'll know exactly how this predatory loop affects your rent, your mortgage, your bills, and more importantly, the 3 critical warning signs to catch before it happens to you. Welcome back to Nation House Discovery, the home for real estate truth, hidden stories, and survival strategies for middle-class families trapped in this affordability crisis. If you're new here, hit subscribe, like, share, and drop a comment, because this channel helps you stay one step ahead of the system. Now let's talk about control. You know the feeling. You work hard, you save, you plan for stability. You have an agreement, a lease, a contract. The system is supposed to protect that. But what if the system itself contains a secret trap door? A door that lets someone else take your stability and swap it for chaos and a bill you can't pay? That's what's happening. It's a deliberate strategy, not an eviction, but a financial chokehold through weaponized lease clauses. The data is terrifying. A recent report from the National Low-Income Housing Coalition reveals a 40% spike in rent-related litigation where the issue is not non-payment, but sudden, impossible rate hikes tied to obscure contract language. It's not just a landlord being greedy, it's organized. They find a vulnerable property, they buy the debt or the building, and they execute the upgrade clause. This clause, often buried deep in the contract, allows the owner to mandate new premium services like enhanced security monitoring, mandatory smart home integration, or amenity preservation fees. And those fees, they're not optional, they're priced to break you. Imagine signing a 2-year lease at $2,200. Perfectly affordable. Then, 6 months in, a letter arrives. It says you now must participate in the new wellness-centric living package for an additional $1,800 a month. Suddenly, your rent isn't $2,200 anymore, it's $4,000. This is exactly what targeted the celebrities, using their high net worth as a reason to demand outlandish add-ons. But now, investment firms are scaling that same outrage on a smaller level, targeting family homes where a sudden $500 increase means choosing between groceries and housing. And the worst part? Because it's framed as an upgrade fee and not a rent increase, many tenants don't have the same legal protections. The goal isn't profit from the fee itself. The goal is to force you out so they can flip the unit for a much higher rate to the next desperate family. It's institutional financial violence. But there is a way to see it coming. There's one shocking paragraph they always use, and it's almost always disguised under the title, Tenant Obligation to Maintain Premises. This is where the real scam begins, and why most lawyers miss it. You need to understand something right now. This isn't a millionaire problem. This is a you problem. That massive celebrity rent scandal you saw, the one that dominated the news for 2 weeks, forget the gossip, forget the famous names. We need to look at the cold, hard mechanics of what actually happened. Because that story wasn't just drama. It was a live demonstration of the most insidious trick being used to gut middle-class housing stability right now. Here's the simple context. The celebrity had a unit that was supposed to be rent stabilized. That's a system designed to protect tenants, right? To keep housing affordable and predictable. But stability is just a word to those who control the loopholes. The landlord, an opportunistic entity, didn't try to illegally hike the rent. They used the system against itself. They didn't break the rules, they simply exploited a tiny, hyper-specific legal avenue that allowed them to mandate upgrades and premium services that were not optional and not priced to be affordable. The result? That rent-stabilized unit, which was legally capped at a certain rate, suddenly morphed into a luxury-priced trap. The rent didn't technically go up, the mandatory fees did, and those fees were designed to be impossible. The tenants' shock was total. They went from having an affordable, protected home to facing a non-negotiable $4,000 increase in their monthly obligation. They weren't evicted, they were simply priced out by a hidden mechanism in their own contract. They were blindsided by a legal move that felt like the ultimate betrothal. And the landlord's justification? Cold, sharp, and corporate. We are simply bringing the property up to market conditions and maximizing the asset's value. Think about that phrase, maximizing the asset's value. That phrase is a warning. It is the core philosophy that has turned our housing market into a zero-sum game. The emotional stakes here are everything. When a millionaire gets hit with a surprise bill, it's an inconvenience. When a middle-class family gets hit with a surprise $500 or $1,000 mandatory fee, it's a crisis. It's the difference between paying the electric bill and losing the apartment. It's the anxiety of realizing your safety net is woven with rot. You're seeing the system turning against the very people it was designed to protect. In this story, we have three characters you need to focus on. The tenant, confused, scared, and blindsided by a piece of paper they thought was safe. The landlord, opportunistic, justifying the price gouging by repeating corporate buzzwords about maximizing asset value. And the middle-class family, you, the real victim of this system-wide shift that sees stability as a lost profit opportunity. This celebrity story is not entertainment, it's a mirror, and the reflection is terrifying. We are watching a highly effective, legally compliant strategy being perfected on the wealthy so it can be deployed seamlessly against everyday people who can't afford any extra surprises. The worst part is the exact line of legal text they use to execute this financial chokehold. It's hiding in plain sight, in your lease, perhaps even in your mortgage documents. It's known as the conditional service mandate, and it's the key to protecting yourself, because the moment you see this phrase, you know the weapon is loaded. Listen closely, because this is the information the average person simply doesn't know. It's the hidden truth about how the system is actually designed to fail you. That celebrity scandal? It was just a flashy symptom of a deeper organized disease. This wasn't an accident, it's a playbook, and nobody told the middle class the rules. There are 4 core loopholes, 4 secret weapons being used right now to systematically dismantle affordable housing and transfer that wealth directly to corporate landlords. Loophole number 1, vacancy decontrol. Imagine you live in a rent-controlled apartment. Great deal, right? Stability. But the second you move out, that property becomes a financial target. Here's the mechanism. It's called vacancy decontrol. In many cities, when a long-term tenant leaves a rent-stabilized unit, the landlord has the legal right to completely reset the rent to market rates for the next tenant. They can literally jump the price by 50% or more overnight. Think about the incentive this creates. The landlord isn't incentivized to keep you happy. They are incentivized to get you out. The quicker the turnover, the quicker they unlock the massive tax-free profit jump. Your stability is their lost revenue. Loophole number 2, the inflation justification trick. We all feel inflation. Gas, groceries, clothes, but corporate landlords use it as a blanket excuse for something much more predatory, illegal-ish rent hikes. Every landlord is legally allowed to raise rent by a small fixed percentage each year, usually tied to inflation or regional guidelines. But here's the trick. They anchor their demands to the highest, most sensational inflation headlines they can find, even if those figures don't apply to housing. They use the fear of inflation to normalize what is actually systemic price gouging. They want you to feel that the massive increase is just a sad, natural consequence of the economy, when in reality, they're using the crisis as a cover to extract maximum value. You start to question yourself. Maybe I'm being unreasonable. Maybe housing really costs this much now. They count on that self-doubt. They count on that confusion. Loophole number 3, the improvement charges scam. This is where the outrage peaks. It's the fake renovation scam. In many rent-regulated areas, a landlord can petition the city to pass the cost of major capital improvements directly onto the tenants in the form of a permanent rent increase. The problem? The improvements are often cosmetic, unnecessary, or dramatically inflated in cost. They spend $5,000 to paint the lobby and charge tenants for a $50,000 renovation. They swap out a cheap faucet for another cheap faucet and claim it's a high-end upgrade. This move alone is responsible for millions of dollars of rent hikes every year. A handful of lawyers and accountants turn a minor repair into a permanent, life-altering increase on your monthly bill. It allows them to legally bypass the rent caps, all while claiming they're improving the quality of life for the tenant they are actively trying to price out. The Zillow pattern. The data doesn't lie. You don't have to take my word for it. Zillow data itself shows a disturbing pattern. Rent surges do not happen randomly. They map almost perfectly with neighborhoods that have recently been targeted by large institutional corporate landlords. It's not supply and demand driving these specific surges. It's acquisition and exploitation. They identify neighborhoods with a high percentage of rent-stabilized or affordably priced units. They acquire as many as they can, and then they deploy this playbook, using vacancy decontrol, inflation justification, and bogus improvement charges. The result is a calculated, devastating rent crisis for the middle class. This is the system. This is the truth. Damn, we never stood a chance. But knowing the playbook is the first step in fighting back. Now that you know the 4 mechanisms, you need to know the one crucial mistake every tenant makes when they receive that ominous rent renewal notice. It's the single action that hands all your power over to the landlord, and you likely did it last time. You've seen the celebrity story, the shock of a $2,000 apartment becoming a $6,500 nightmare. But I need you to translate that shock into your own life. Because this isn't a curiosity, it's a terrifying preview of the future for the middle class. This isn't about being priced out in 2 years. This is about your monthly bills jumping overnight. Imagine you're a renter. You sign a lease expecting stability. Then a landlord, corporate or otherwise, deploys the improvement charges scam we just covered. Suddenly, your monthly rent, which was already a stretch, gains an extra $300 or $500 in mandatory fees. Your rent can jump overnight. This means bill panic. That $500 has to come from somewhere. Groceries, savings, the kids' college fund. Your budget, which was already balanced on a knife edge, is instantly destroyed. The domino effect on homeowners. But what if you're a homeowner? You think you're safe, protected by your mortgage. Think again. The same forces that are crushing renters are coming for your escrow account. Here's the new reality. 1. Surging insurance. Between 2021 and 2024, the average American homeowner saw their insurance premiums spike by a staggering 24% nationally, twice as fast as general inflation. In some states, it was a near 50% jump. Why? Extreme weather, yes, but also the corporate risk model that sees your area as a liability and passes the buck to you. Mortgage shock. When your insurance premiums surge, what happens to your mortgage escrow? It explodes. That portion of your monthly payment that covers taxes and insurance is recalculated, and you are hit with a massive adjustment bill or a sudden jump in your overall monthly mortgage payment. That feeling of stability you thought you had, it vanishes. Property tax increases. Corporate landlords love to drive up the perceived value of an area through selective upgrades and high rents. The long-term effect? Property taxes rise for everyone. Your neighbor's success becomes your permanent escalating bill. The betrayal of inflation. And the final punch, your savings are being drained by inflation faster than you can refill them. For decades, the promise was, work hard, save money, and you'll get ahead. Now, your income grows at a snail's pace, but the cost of being housed is accelerating at a relentless, unsustainable rate. A Zillow-backed analysis of rent trends shows that in the early 2020s, rent increases alone were outpacing currency inflation by nearly 40%. The moral tension is simple. Your home value might look strong on paper, but your monthly bill is quickly becoming unmanageable. You might be asset rich but cash poor, trapped by a rising tide of surprise costs, rising utilities, surging insurance, and manipulative landlord notices. The celebrity scheme wasn't just a scandal, it was a warning. You're not watching old gossip, you're watching a preview of the coming rent shock, the coming mortgage shock, and the coming insurance shock that will define the middle-class experience for the next decade. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the institutional financial playbook laid bare. But what if there was one key phrase you could look for in any document, a phrase that is a clear red flag that tells you exactly when they are about to try and execute this plan? Knowing this phrase could protect your wallet from the 3 biggest financial shocks of the next 5 years. There are no good guys in this story. Let's get that straight. There are only people trying to survive and people who are actively profiting from that struggle. The celebrity scandal was a masterclass in moral complexity. The rich were being scammed, but the real moral tension lies in the fact that the exact same tool is being used to crush the middle class. It's a zero-sum game, and the two sides couldn't be clearer. The winners, architects of the crisis. These are the groups maximizing profit by weaponizing the loopholes we just exposed. They aren't villains in a movie. They're just highly efficient machines designed to extract maximum value from housing. Corporate landlords and investors. They are the clear winners. They buy up properties, execute the upgrade charges and vacancy decontrol tactics, and turn affordable homes into luxury returns. They don't care about community, they care about yield. And the bigger the crisis, the higher their yield. Banks and lenders. They profit off the escalating costs. When property values surge, even artificially, banks loan money at higher rates, collect higher fees, and generate more complex financial products, all secured by the soaring price of your stability. They are financially insulated from the human cost of the chaos. Governments. This is the betrayal that hurts the most. As prices soar, who benefits from the new higher property assessments? The city, the state, and the local government. They get a windfall in property taxes, which allows them to avoid making difficult budget decisions. They are tacitly incentivized to let the housing crisis continue, because the higher the price, the bigger their tax haul. The system gamers. These are the opportunistic property owners and individuals, not just huge corporations, who learn to use the playbook. They are the ones who spot the renovation loophole and exploit it, using the system's complexity to their own advantage. They know the rules and you don't. That's their biggest edge. The losers, the cost of complacency. If the winners are the ones building the financial wall, the losers are the ones trapped on the wrong side of it. These are the victims of a system that promised stability and delivered a betrayal. Middle-class homeowners. You're not safe just because you own the deed. You're being crushed by the rising tide of forced costs, the exploding insurance, the surging property taxes, and the ever-present threat of HOA fee hikes driven by external inflation. Your equity is technically rising, but your monthly quality of life is plummeting. Renters barely surviving. For them, the game is over. They are one non-optional upgrade fee, one surprise utility increase, or one improvement charge away from total displacement. The emotional toll is staggering. Constant fear, no control, and the sinking feeling that they are being intentionally pushed out of their own city. Black middle-class families. This group faces a compounding pressure. They are often targeted by gentrification tactics first. Corporate landlords see these neighborhoods as untapped profit centers, leading to disproportionate rent shocks and a systemic dismantling of hard-won community stability. Betrayal plus historical inequality equals collapse. Anyone who trusts the system. This is the biggest category of losers. These are the people who believe in fairness, who follow the rules, and who assume their government, their bank, and their contracts are there to protect them. They are the most vulnerable to the moral shock when they realize the system isn't rigged against them. It was simply designed for someone else to win. This is the hidden cost of the celebrity scandal. It showed the rich what the poor already knew. Housing stability is now a privilege, not a right.
The only difference between the celebrity losing $4,000 and the family losing $400 is the size of their bank account. The mechanism of betrayal is identical. You need to know how to stop the betrayal. You need to know the one crucial line in every lease and mortgage document that gives them the legal right to trigger this entire financial chokehold. The moment you see these words, you know they have the power to destroy your budget.
Let's zoom back in on the core moment of betrayal, because this is where the system's cruelty is undeniable. This is the moment your heartbeat should rise, because this could be you. The tenant in the celebrity scandal thought they had protection. They were in a rent-stabilized unit. That's supposed to be the armor against the chaos of the market. It's the promise of control. It didn't mean protection. It meant a false sense of security. The conflict wasn't over a broken faucet or a late payment. It was over a piece of paper. The landlord, facing outrage, calmly argued they were just following the law. And that's the horrific twist. They weren't breaking the law, they were using it. Here is the WTF moment. The tenant realizes the rent wasn't increased through a traditional hike. It was increased using a loophole, a conditional service mandate, that literally nobody ever explains to the middle class. The legal shock is absolute. The landlord didn't violate the contract. They exploited a clause within the contract to compel the tenant to pay for essential premium upgrades. Think about that moral breakdown. A contract meant to establish order and fairness becomes a loaded gun pointed at your wallet. The financial threat is immediate and escalating. Watch the numbers spiral out of control. The starting point was a comfortable, affordable $2,000 rent. The first mandatory upgrade fee for services the tenant didn't want or need pushed it instantly to $4,000. Then, through escalating demands and compounding fees, it reached the outrageous, unsustainable nightmare of $6,500. That happened in a matter of months, not years, months. Now, ask yourself the critical question. How fast could your rent jump if that same rule, that same legal loophole applies to your lease right now? Do you have the financial buffer to absorb a sudden 50% increase? 100%? Most families don't. That's the entire point. The goal isn't just to extract money, it's to manufacture crisis, forcing tenant turnover so the unit can be permanently reset at the higher market rate for the next victim. You are watching a strategic financial attack. The only way to disarm it is to know the language. You need to know the specific two-word phrase that is now being universally added to every new lease and rental agreement across the country. It's the trap door they rely on to execute this entire scam. It's the term operational compliance, and if you see it, you're in danger. Let me be blunt. If you do nothing right now, the system that caused the celebrity scandal is coming for your budget. This isn't theoretical. This is an immediate financial consequence. That corporate playbook, the one designed to turn stability into profit, is not staying in luxury markets. It is spreading to regular apartments and family homes. The perfect storm is here. Inflation is giving landlords legal cover. They are using the real threat of inflation to justify completely unreasonable, borderline illegal rent hikes and mandatory fees. They hide behind the news headlines, and the middle class is left confused and defenseless. Your next lease renewal could be the shock. If you're a renter, that renewal notice is not just paper. It is a loaded contract containing the exact language that allows them to execute the financial chokehold we've discussed. That's why you need to know what to look for before you sign. Mortgage holders are facing silent escalators. You signed a fixed-rate mortgage, but your total monthly payment is not fixed. Your insurance premiums are exploding, and your property taxes are quietly, relentlessly rising. These are the silent escalators that force your costs higher, making the dream of homeownership feel like a trap. Insurance is the new weapon. We saw the data. Premiums are jumping by 20%, 30%, even 50% in some areas. This is not just a cost increase, it's a direct attack on your escrow account, creating massive yearly financial panic. Understand this central, painful truth. The system rewards people who take advantage, and it punishes those who trust too much. You cannot afford to assume your contract or your government will protect you. They are often active or passive participants in the exploitation. The only way to win is to have the inside knowledge, because the next victim might not be a celebrity with a massive legal team. It might be your family. Now, if you want to know the single most important clause to look for, the one two-word term that reveals their entire game plan, whether you're renting or buying, you need to look for the phrase unilateral adjustment. And I'm going to show you exactly where they hide it, and the one thing you can do to neutralize it right now. We've talked about the fear. Now, let's talk about control and clarity. You deserve to know how to stop this. This is your survival guide. Short, sharp, and actionable. Spotting the loophole language. You need to become a lawyer for yourself when you sign any document. Don't skim the fine print. Look for these red flags, because they are the signs of the landlord's hidden playbook. Operational compliance, or mandatory service requirements. These are the words used to justify those non-optional, impossible-to-pay upgrade fees. If you see a clause allowing the landlord to unilaterally mandate new services, demand it be removed or clearly capped in price. Tenant obligation to maintain premises. This can be a Trojan horse. It might sound normal, but it's often used to pass the cost of routine, major capital improvements onto your monthly bill, bypassing rent caps entirely. Subject to unilateral adjustment. This is financial kryptonite. It means they can change the terms, especially fees outside of base rent, without your explicit agreement. Do not sign a contract with this language. Knowing your rights, when they can and can't raise rent. In most regulated markets, a landlord can legally hike the base rent only once per year, and that increase must be within a fixed, legally determined percentage, usually tied to CPI or a rent guidelines board. But here's the crucial point. They cannot legally charge you for fraudulent or unnecessary improvement charges that are not truly major capital improvements or that were clearly done to harass you out of the unit. You have the right to challenge. Document everything. Take photos. Keep every piece of correspondence. If you suspect an illegal increase or a scam, file a complaint with your local tenancy board immediately. Most renters don't challenge because they're afraid of eviction. They rely on that fear. Don't let them win. Preparing for the jump. Look at the Zillow data for your area. If your neighborhood is showing a pattern of corporate acquisition followed by an abnormal rent surge, you need to financially brace yourself. The lesson? Assume your costs. Your rent, your mortgage escrow, your insurance will jump by at least 15% in the next 2 years. Prep financially now. Negotiate harder. When you get a renewal notice, never accept the first offer. Challenge the comparison rates they provide. Show them data from your own research, not just Zillow, but local property manager listings. Final insight? The middle class is losing this fight because we're relying on old rules. The system works for those who know the hidden language. You now know the language. You know the playbook. But there is one final coordinated tactic that corporate landlords use to overwhelm entire communities. A coordinated move so ruthless, it drives hundreds of families to move at the exact same time. We've seen the playbook. We've seen the spiraling numbers, $2,000 to $6,500. We've seen the corporate language, unilateral adjustment, operational compliance, designed to strip away your control. The system is set up to reward opportunism and punish trust. Now, I need you to ask yourself the hardest question in this entire housing crisis, and I want you to be honest in the comments below. Do you think what the landlord did was fair or foul? Was it simply a smart business move? A clever exploitation of an existing loophole? That's just how the game is played, right? Or was it a disgusting, coordinated attack on the very concept of home stability, a foul act of financial violence against families who were simply following the rules? Should tenants and homeowners be protected more with ironclad limits on mandatory fees and surprise insurance spikes? Or do you accept that the game has changed and this is simply the new cost of survival? There is no middle ground left in this crisis. Which side are you on? The families fighting to survive and keep a roof over their heads, or the system built to squeeze them for every last dollar of profit? Drop your answer in the comments. Drive the arguments. Let us know where the moral line is drawn. Thanks for watching Nation House Discovery, the place where we expose the real estate truth nobody else will tell you. Stay sharp, stay aware, stay prepared, because this crisis is only getting started.